So right now we are going to talk about an anger, and also I've just finished reading the Seneca's book on anger, and the book kind of will be used while we'll this make this video topic. So it's kind of book review, but at the same time we're going to touch this subject anger deeply and understand this from young men's perspective. Um, so let's get on it. What is an anger? It's an impulse that makes human uh, waste too much energy, and first, one of the biggest things that I paid attention to it is this. I mean, anger affects one of those weak minds, and what it means by it is this: there are a bunch of wise people in history that were literally not affected by this thing. They would never let themselves get angry. It's not like they are completely immune to anger, but they would never let themselves get angry. Why? Because no matter how you look at it, anger never leads to thought of action. For example, angry soldier, angry army, angry nation, every single one is useless because when you are angry, you cannot think. You are just acting on your impulses. You know. Uh, And what's even more important these days that we have seen in history that some people are, when they get angry, like they literally lose their mind. Some may even get angry to the point that they spill literally blood. From anger, their eyes become red colored. They are bloodshot. They suffer, and in the end, they affect their own health on being angry. And even if we don't pay attention to stuff like, hey man, or women, or whatever, you're just, angry, right? Somebody, for whatever reason, made you angry. Understand this. You are right now the one that suffers from your anger. Here's the two things you need to understand. First of all is this. You should never let temporary circumstances to decide your future life. Never ever let temporarily environment, situation decide your future life, because this is very important when you are angry to remember this. And also, look at this way. Let's say the person you are angry at is weaker than you are. Then spare that person. And if that person you are angry is way stronger than you are, then spare yourself. And understand this: best revenge is to live awesome life, to be super, to do whatever you want to do. There are too many people that suffer from worry, from anger, from these impulsive decisions, and when you do that, you waste your time. This is in this book, by the way, is insane mind-opening book for me. This is subject I've been interested to. Dale Carnegie. I haven't read before book of Dale Carnegie about this subject, but I've never seen something so on point to literally understand what anger is. And this is really wise. This is something that has no whatsoever use for society. There is two possible ways anger acts. First one is this. When anger takes over the person loses over entire reason and acts unreasonable way, which never leads to circumstances, never leads to something meaningful. And the second one is when reason tries to overcome the hatred, but anger. But when you let anger to go deeply to you, it becomes already a habit of yours, and it's really very, very difficult for you to overcome it, and you are still angry and you still feel down. You still feel that. So best way is this: whenever you are angry, remember this: Life is so damn short. Are you going to waste your time being angry? Being angry itself means nothing. You know, being consumed by an anger, being controlled by it, stops your mind from expanding, stops your mind from thinking. Instead of being angry, be like, hey, what can I do to not to avenge myself, because now this is also a form of anger, but what to do to improve, to become better, to stand above this, because you can, sure as hell, if you want to, if you try it really hard. And it won't be easy, by the way. And throughout history, there are lots of cases, of anger. And there is, by the way, another example, that Seneca brings in the book. I believe it's a story of Hannibal. Basically, he says that we hear, so it's not, it's not sure, that when Hannibal saw the blood blood in battlefield, like how everything was spoiled with blood, etc. He was like, "What a beautiful sign is it?" And he says, "Now, if Hannibal were to see uh, how see the rivers of blood or oceans of blood, he would be like shocked by it." So that type of thing, that's not coming from anger. That's another vice, another evil. This is how the author defines it. In today's world, it's called like a dark triad. And also, you may have a question: can anger be managed or not? And author tells us this story about a king that liked to drink a lot. And one day a man that works under him goes to him and says, now this is not the exact way, but you get the point after listening to this, and tells, my king, it's not worthy for king to be drunk all the damn time and drinking. And king says that, well, I'm not drinking that much at all, and orders to bring him wine and start to drink even more, and tells him, make your son stand there, and I'll make sure that I'll pierce his heart by my arrow. And he was already drunk, the king. So the man that went to the king with this complaint that's not befitted for you to be that drunk all the time, sees that, and the king aims to his son, this man's son that complained, and pierces this, and the arrow pierces through his son's heart, and king's orders to bring the kid here, man here or there, and pierce his body and see if his heart is pierced by an arrow. And it turns out that the arrow hit its target, and the king expects from this man any sort of can I say it, showing refresh to become, because entirely he wanted to do good, and because of him right now his son starts to suffer. His son not suffer but die because of him. But this man manages to take hold of himself. And I believe he had another son, and he knew that if we were to speak up or try revenge, his another son would also end up the same way or something like that. But the man manages to control himself, because he had another son, and he didn't want his another son to experience the same thing. If you were, I'll never forget this example. There was a woman. He was actually quite an interesting person. And she had basically an entrepreneurial background. She at some point in her life started to open a huge clinic, but the clinic failed. Basically, his business her business failed. And I remember, just for curiosity, I asked her, what is the three things you wish you knew in your early years of life? And one of the things she said was this, with very sorrowful face. She was like, "Oh, I wish I had not worried the much that I did." And the worry sometimes somehow is related to an anger. Because when you are angry or worry, you are like, "Oh my God, how can I revenge?" Blah blah blah. I mean, if you want a revenge story, look at this here. This is here the Count Monte Cristo. The Count Monte Cristo. You know, the way, for example, Count. If you were to pay attention to Count takes his revenge, and it cannot be even called revenge. He seeks justice for himself. He's not like he could, instead of going the way he did, he could just, you know, directly kill his enemies like this. But no, he wants to seek justice. He wants to understand what happened. And, and his entire life is not dependent on this thing. He's very logical there, thinks through it, and just wants to seek justice in a smart way. The Count is not angry, but seeks justice for himself, seeks vengeance. Also, we're definitely going to have this book review in the future. As well. I'm rereading it right now. The Count as well. It's my habit to read a couple books at the same time. And it's very interesting if you pay attention to this also. Of course, it's a fiction, but, Count is not really angry, but starts his professionally, and after he finishes his anger, his vengeance, not anger, but vengeance, he just keeps living. His entire life is not dependent on this anger. First of all, he's not angry, he just seeks justice for himself, because if he were angry, he would just go, he had already enough power to just capture whoever those people that, hurt him, and just torture them to death or whatever. He had total power and, rich, he was rich and powerful. The Count is rich and powerful, or like the Count Monte Cristo, not the Edmond Dantes, but the Count Monte Cristo could do it easily if he wanted to, and his enemies were nothing but ants compared to mighty Count. But Count does not behave that way. It's also an incredible story. But let's back to our main story, right? Because, and this is my last point. Do you remember this woman's story? I told you how she regretted those worrying things and how she was angry all the time. By the way, if you're, and she was tired, right? And this is the last point I want to make to you. Life is so short. Do you want to waste your time being angry? Because anger is a madness. Anger is a form of madness. Anger is a form of madness. Repeat this to yourself. Understand this. Anger is a form of madness, and it affects those of weak minds. Those of strong minds are never affected by anger. Look at the greatest people in history. For example, here is the Titan. The story, life of John D. Rockefeller, basically. Man, do you know one of the things characteristic trait Rockefeller had? He was so damn calm all the time, so calm that his calmness made people scared to death. Seriously, his calmness made people scared to death. He was so freaking calm all the fucking time. All the time. He was calm. It's a trait of remember, those of weak minds only. This is the type of people that get affected by an anger, not those of the strong one. Here we have as well the Arnold Schwarzenegger autobiography. Now Schwarzenegger never was like, oh my god, I'm getting angry right now. I was like, no, let me plan this through. Instead of wasting my time, Schwarzenegger never wastes his time being angry on something. He just took action to improve his life. And he was very dedicated toward it. So understand this, in the end, your life is so short. Do you really want to waste your time being angry? And understand this, just like we said, if you are stronger than your enemy, spare your enemy. If your enemy is stronger than you are, then spare yourself. And if you were to get through, and if you were to, think through it, why do you need to bother by an anger? Think through it. And by the way, this book is type of book that definitely deserves to be read more than once, and I'm definitely going to read it at least twice, because it's such a deep conversation, because it reminds you, hey, does anger really serves you in any way? No. Your health goes down. It's a form of insanity. Do you want to be lunatic? Who wants that? Do you want to lose your mind? And by the way, anger at some point even makes dangerous for yourself and for your loved ones as well, because you are uncontrollable. It's like a magnet that took over you. And if you can manage the anger, you are already far ahead in life. Understand it is a form of madness, and it, by the way, has a lot of things to do with the way we are raised. But this is something that you can already change. But you can get through it and pay attention to this knowledge so far, and also read the book itself if you want to read it. It goes a lot more deeper in this subject. Okay, guys, that's it for today's review of the book and conversation about anger. See you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it to your friends.